I'd like to welcome Talia. She has been a phenomenal asset for the environment, and her stories have, if you get the Herald at all, you know that her stories have carried quite an impact. And last night, the Sierra Club honored our own Kate Lunsford as well as Talia for their work for the environment, which is really, how can I say, well deserved. We really appreciate, because the more people know about the issues surrounding climate change, the more they know about possible solutions. The more Carol's giving you a clap there, and well deserved. It obviously spreads the word and gets everybody involved, and that's what we want. And we especially want the wake-up call going to our county council and our people that are our leaders in power, decision-making power. And that always, I think, is an influence when they see it in the press. It means a lot to them. So all of those things have been valuable to us. Talia, I made you co-host, so that means if you want to screen share, you are able to do so. I also want to mention, well, I can do that during our report time. So it's great to have you here. People, at the beginning tend to drop in from, I say 10 o'clock, but, it's like me trying to get your hair dry in time. And
Yeah.
or whatever it may be, the last little stitch that you want to get done beforehand. So take it away, Talia.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much for your kind words and for having me today. I'm excited to talk with you all. Yeah, I'm gonna just start by sharing my screen. I have a little presentation I'm gonna share. Okay. Perfect. Is that showing up okay for everyone?
Yeah, that's great. Looks like
Perfect.
springtime.
Yeah, I thought the theme was fitting. Well, yeah, thank you all again for having me today. And just to kind of start, I thought I'd begin by introducing myself. So, as Joan said, I'm Talia, and I moved to Washington almost a year ago, last July. And I'd never been here before. It was my very first time coming to the state, but I had a good feeling about it, and that good feeling has proven true. I love it here. I'm a big hiker and love spending time outside, so it's been a very good fit. And I've always wanted to do environment reporting, so this area has been perfect for that. And I grew up in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and I went to college at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, where I studied journalism and creative writing, and started working for my school newspaper and radio station there before I graduated. And I worked for a couple of Wisconsin publications after graduation, and then decided to move closer to family. So I lived in Florida for about 6 months with my parents, who had just retired and moved down there. And then I was avidly searching for a reporting job, and really hoping to land an environmental reporting job specifically right away, and was really grateful to land at the Herald. I initially interviewed for a general assignment reporting position, actually, and while I was interviewing for the role, the editors could tell that I was very passionate about the environment and climate change, and they asked me if I would be interested in doing that kind of coverage full time, to which I eagerly said yes. and was really excited about that. So, yeah, and now I'm here. And then I wanted to talk about kind of my past work a little bit, as the environment and climate change are topics I've been pretty passionate about for some time. And it kind of started when I was in college. I had the opportunity to study for a bit at Queens College in New York. My uh, home campus in Wisconsin had a program where you could study at another university in the US, and pay tuition to your home college. So I studied in New York, and at the time, there were initiatives to transform power plants into renewable energy stations. And there was a specific power plant that was causing lots of harm in a neighborhood that was known. It was called, Asthma Alley, because so many people were getting asthma and were sick and experiencing negative effects from the local power plant. And there was a plan to transform that power plant into a renewable energy hub, and it fell through. So I was really interested in doing reporting on how locals felt about that. And this power plant also was in a proportionately in a neighborhood of proportionately people of color. So I was really interested in the environmental justice aspect of that story as well. So I did some reporting on the environment in Queens, specifically on that. And then when I graduated from the University of Wisconsin Eau Claire, I had a really great opportunity to embark on a fellowship at the Washington Post, where I was placed in their climate and environment reporting team for about a month. And I had the great opportunity to kind of pursue a story that I'd always been passionate about, which was climate anxiety among young people. And when I was in college, I had noticed that climate therapy had started to become, more of a popular term and concept, and I was really interested in that. I had peers who were, considering, offering climate therapy on campus, or just spaces where people could talk about their concerns and fears for the future. And I thought that idea was really interesting. So when I was at the Post, I was curious about whether other universities across the state or across the nation were offering similar opportunities. And it turned out that there were quite a few who were trying to offer climate therapy on campus for students who were anxious about climate change. So that was a story I was really proud of, and it's definitely something I am interested in continuing to follow in the future. I think it's very fascinating when I meet people who kind of shape their whole careers and lifestyles around climate change, and yeah, so that's definitely a topic I'm continuing to be interested in. And also, while I was at the Post, I had a really fun assignment where I was able to go to a concert, a Jack Johnson concert, and see how musicians are making their performances and tours more sustainable. And it was really interesting to, talk to people in, the music field about how they're prompting more concert goers to bring their own water bottles, so there's less single use plastic and trash in the crowd after everyone leaves after a show, or how they're using electric buses to travel from place to place. So that was a really fun story that I got to do at the Post as well. And then when I came back, that was the summer after I graduated from college. And then when I came back, I worked for Wisconsin Public Radio for a bit and really enjoyed pursuing public media for a summer as well. And then after that finished, I was an intern for a alternative weekly newspaper magazine in Madison, Wisconsin, where I covered a lot of politics, especially, being in the capital of the state. I really had great opportunities to pursue some political reporting, but I also had a really enjoyable experience with local Audubon Society, where they were starting to collaborate with other nonprofits that advocate for people with disabilities in an effort to get um, those folks outside and to do activities like birding. So, so one day I got to kind of shadow a birding event that was specifically geared toward people with visual disabilities, where they could kind of um, find resources to identify birds by sound and things of that nature. So that kind of inspired further interest in for me to see how other organizations are aiming to make recreation more accessible. And then I kind of took a brief break from reporting. I wanted to see what it was like to immerse myself in the environmental field rather than just writing about it. So for a month, I worked in Utah for an AmeriCorps program called the American Conservation Experience. And that was definitely one of my most favorite experiences. I got to work with a pretty big crew of young, or, or recent graduates and also recent high school graduates, doing trail work and also planting trees and getting rid of invasive species. And that was a really valuable experience, not only being able to work and live outside, but also there was a lot of networking opportunities for me to meet people through local Department of Natural Resources and local BLM employees. So it really I think inspired me even more to do something that combined my passion for the environment and writing. So yeah, and here's some more pictures from my time there. We were located pretty close to Zion National Park, so some people in my cohort did trail work in the national park, but myself and a few other peers got to do. We planted coyote willows to kind of enhance habitat for a local endangered bird, and you know build up a riparian zone for in the event of flooding. And then I also did some trail work in like a part of Arizona. So yeah, it was very fun. Enjoyed it quite a bit. And then now I'm hoping to talk about kind of my recent work. So when I started at the Herald, one of some of the first questions that I got from folks were about recycling. And it's definitely always a topic that I've been curious about and interested in. I remember distinctly when I lived in Wisconsin and had gone to a Starbucks, and I had a friend who worked at Starbucks, and we were going to I was going to the waste bins to recycle my plastic cup, and he had showed me that there actually wasn't a separate trash bin and a separate recycling bin, but that everything was going into the same bin. And that was really disheartening for me. And I was curious, if other places were doing that, or, really what was happening to the products that I was recycling. And where were they going and what was being done with them? Were they becoming something else? So with Trash Talk, I really uh, have found it as a way to not only explore questions that people in the community have about recycling, but also some of my own curiosities about reducing waste. And some of the recent articles that I've done through that column have been about food waste. I got to shadow some farmers in Darrington and see how they pick up food scraps from a local school and feed them to their pigs in an effort to reduce food waste since they don't have composting out in Darrington. And then I also have been trying to feature other events where traditionally or I shouldn't say non-recyclable materials, but curbs materials that you traditionally can't put in your curbside recycling bins are accepted. So I got to shadow a transfer a recycling station in Snohomish County where they accept things like antifreeze and batteries and other items that maybe people can't typically put on the curb. And then I also, there was a fun event right after the holidays where I got to go to an event where people were recycling Christmas trees, so dropping off their Christmas trees and holiday wrapping and styrofoam, and watching the trees turn into bark that would go to local parks, and seeing how traditionally materials that you think wouldn't be recyclable were becoming usable again. And the list of ideas that I have for this column always continues to grow, and I hope that people continue to send me ideas for this column, because I think there's so many avenues to explore. But right now, some of the top things that I'm hoping to focus on in the future are plastic bags and film. There's I think some concerns that maybe um, the plastic bags that we drop off at grocery stores or things of that nature might not be coming benches or other things that we think that they are becoming. So I think that's something I would like to look into more. And then also there's an upcoming ban on foam containers, and I think that would be interesting to look into a bit more and to see if a ban might help reduce use of those. And then also services like Ridwell. I'm planning next month to do my trash talk on how using a service like that might help to reduce waste that traditionally you think will go in the garbage. And even things like caps and lids, I think people, wonder if those can be recycled again or not. Or if when you put a bottle of some kind, you need to remove the cap. So those are all kind of questions I'm still looking to explore more for my future trash talk columns. And then also over the past year, I've been, well, I shouldn't say the past year, since December, early January, I've been following a situation with OMA Construction, which owns Mountain Loop Mines Everett Aggregate Yard, which is next to Fairmount Elementary School in Everett. And it's been it started as a teacher who was in the district, not necessarily at the at Fairmount Elementary, who was really concerned about this and reached out to the Herald to let us know what was going on. for months, school staff had noticed filters, HVAC filters filling up more often than normal. They noticed dust inside the building, and that students were coughing and having more bloody noses, all after this operation started next door to them. And once they discovered that the operation wasn't permitted by the county, I think frustration ramped up even more, understandably. So it was really interesting to follow that story and to go there in person to see how close the site was to the school, and to explore why in the county sometimes unpermitted projects are allowed to continue. So for me, it was really rewarding to see, both from my coverage and the Seattle Times coverage, how progressively operations gradually decreased at the aggregate yard over time. So yeah, and most recently, a judge declared that operations at the site could not continue further until they had proper permits. So yeah, that's kind of the update on that story. I've also been I've really enjoyed talking to locals about the possible reintroduction of grizzly bears in the North Cascades, and that's something that I'm planning to continue to follow as well. And we anticipate a final decision on the proposal sometime soon. But up until this point, it's been fascinating to talk with biologists and also residents who are possibly going to be living near areas where, pretty close to areas where the bears will be released if the plan does go through. So it's been very interesting, and I have always had an interest in wildlife stories in general. So I think this story has also been really really interesting for me to look into. And most recently, with this topic, I was able to speak with the last person to see a confirmed grizzly sighting in the North Cascades. And funny enough, he had no idea that he was the last person to see a grizzly in the North Cascades. So that was a very fun phone call for me, and I think for him as well, to learn that. And another topic that I'm really interested in is outdoor education. In Wisconsin, I never had heard of an outdoor preschool or daycare, but here in Western Washington, there definitely seems to be an interest for that kind of education here. And my interest for this kind of started with a tip we received about an outdoor school that was being shut down in on Camino Island because of contention between the island county leaders and leaders of the school about land use. So it was really fascinating to kind of shadow what a day in the school is like, and to see the kids, purely spend time outside, no matter whether it rains or not. I want to continue looking into in the future. And as far as future stories go, I have a few. I've quite a long list of things that I want to look into, but some of the main ideas that I'm hoping to continue to explore in my work involve accessibility in sustainable and sustainable activities and recreational activities. I want to continue exploring how wildlife are preserved in the state, especially threatened and endangered species. And I also want to dive more into climate solutions and learn more about what people are doing to address climate change. Um, yeah. So just diving into these topics a bit more. One story that I'm planning on doing in the near future is covering what's called a rainbow conservation crew through the Northwest Youth Corps, which is a conservation group specifically for LGBTQ plus individuals, giving them a safe space to do conservation work. So that's a topic that I'm really interested in covering and plan to do so in the next couple months. And along that same line, there's also crews for folks who do ASL. So I think covering, groups that really try to make outdoor activities more accessible is something I'm really passionate about. Um, Similar to work I did in Wisconsin, I'm also interested in seeing how groups like the Audubon Society or other recreation focused groups like that try to welcome and include more people who have physical or visual disabilities. And also, I'm planning on doing a trash talk in the near future about what challenges exist for people with physical disabilities who want to recycle. You know, I had an email from a woman recently who told me about how she's confined to a wheelchair and gets her groceries delivered to her, but the groceries come in plastic bags and she's not able to recycle them anywhere. So, just challenges like that, I'm really interested in exploring more. And then also, right now, I'm working on a story about mountain goat recovery in the North Cascades, along with grizzly bear proposal. And I've always been interested in the concept of wildlife corridors, and that's not something I've really explored too much since I've moved to Washington, but I I know they exist out here. So it would be interesting to explore the effectiveness of those projects and see how they work. And I also really want to dive more into climate solutions. I know that there's a lot of work being done in Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest to help prepare trees for climate change. And that's a topic I'm really interested in. I'm also really fascinated by the different climate activist groups that we have here in Western Washington and featuring the work that they're doing to try to help the environment. So yeah, those are all topics that I'm really fascinated by. But that is all that I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions or talk about any topics that you all are interested in seeing.
Well, thank you, Talia. That was wonderful. It's nice to know your diverse background too. You kind of traveled around and done kind of stuck your finger into a lot of pies here as far as the climate change is concerned, and that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Let me check the chat, but I see that we let's go back to if you Talia, if you let our screen share go, we can go back to looking at each other for discussion here and
Yeah.
answering questions. There you go. And I'd like to, I know one of the questions I thought about when you were doing that, when you mentioned wildlife corridors, that's something that we've also wanted to make sure happen. And one of the things when we talked to the planning department earlier in the year about what they were working on for the comprehensive plan was providing maps for us, because even though they say that they exist, seeing it visually for the person going on to the website is valuable. And of course, that was one of the things they said that they were planning to work on. So, hold them to it, Talia, if you talk to them or you question them, because that's one of the things they did say that they would like to work on. And
Okay.
are there other questions? I mean, it was fun to hear all those the background things that you've been involved with, Talia, and
Thank you.
I thought one of the things that impressed me is your sense of inclusion with trying to make the effort accessible to people who are handicapped in some way, that may not be totally abled, but still want to participate in the process and feel connected to those that are pushing for solutions to climate change. And I thought that was rather it touched me. I thought, wow. I'd never quite taken that perspective before, but I had heard about some of the Audubon efforts, especially with, is it Cornell, where they record the sounds of the birds, and then you can go out and listen and try to see if it's the same sound as that particular bird from Cornell. And that was one of the small slivers of that whole process that I knew about. But you kind of opened my eyes to far more, and I appreciated that. Jim, you have your hand up.
Yes, I do. Talia, we have a lot in common. I grew up in the Midwest in Missouri, and my family and I spent 4 years chained to Long Island, so we could talk about New York sometime. And which for a Midwesterner, it's really an experience.
Yeah, exactly.
And well, lots of other connections, but one question is not official, but for fun, is do you have a piece of the ownership of the football team in Green Bay?
Oh, yeah. I don't, but yes, that is a very good question, because lots of people do. I have family members who do, but I don't personally.
Well, it's owned by the county apparently, or the city or whatever, so that's kind of fun. But
Exactly.
the real question for us, I think, might be useful is, are you going to visit the county sustainability event on Saturday, April 20th, over at the Evergreen State Fairgrounds? I mean, you're talking about trying to figure out who the people are who are involved in climate change, global warming, the environment, sustainable agriculture, all of that. There'll be tables out there with all kinds of people like that. You can spend all day gathering material if you wanted.
No, exactly. And I wish I could. I'm actually camping this weekend. I'm in
Oh,
Leavenworth right now. So yeah. But yeah, I did hear. Are you talking about that energy block party?
no, that's PUD.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
PUD. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a fun thing too. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the sustainability one, I think, is really important.
Yeah.
If you can't get there. Oh, yeah, another thing I was going to say, check in with Phil and see if he can't get you 2 or 3 more people in your office there to help you
Yeah.
out. Sounds like with all the things you got going, and the kinds of things that are really important, you need a staff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Lynn, I know that she can't be silenced, but she just raised her thumb on that. one of the things that will happen out at the fairgrounds on that Earth Day event,
Mhm.
Talia, is that they will recycle everything, anything.
Wow.
So that people who want to get rid of those, worrisome batteries, or,
Mhm.
the computer that they don't know what to do with, or,
Yeah. Or
the old,
tires too, right? Is
yeah,
that what I
tires, yeah.
yeah.
So, some of those really hard to get rid of things,
Yeah.
it's a place where they can take them for, disposal. And,
Cool.
so that is welcome.
Yeah.
Plus, you could learn a lot about various groups and so forth. I think they'll all be well represented.
Yeah.
And if you're not
Mhm.
registered to vote, you can also do that at our table.
Nice.
Especially with an election. It's hard when you're
Yeah.
around a lot to make sure your address
Y
meets the
yeah.
standards that you need for that state. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I really, really appreciate your coming. I had, one of the things that, I was curious about was how you went, because I tried to get someone to come and talk to us about the grizzly thing. Was there
Oh.
someone in particular that you made headway with in order to discover this?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
send me that
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. No, you mean just to kind of talk about the plan, the proposal?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to send you that name. I'll write a couple of notes. There's quite a few biologists in the area who have lots of thoughts on this.
And if you haven't touched bases with the president of the Pilchuck Audubon Society here, we did have him earlier, and he is marvelous. We had a marvelous presentation from him of all the things that they're doing, and um, I really appreciated your articles on the Fairmont Elementary and all
Thank you.
what was going on there. It just was devastating to know what an impact that was. That's where the kindergartners have been taken for the Mukilteo School District. And
Mhm.
it was heart-wrenching to know that they were being exposed to all of that asthma
Mhm.
creating dust and noise, constant noise,
Mm.
the teachers and for the kids. So,
Yeah.
uh, your outdoor education, have you, last month we had the Snohomish County Conservation District come and talk to us about
Oh,
outdoor education programs. And they were
yeah.
absolutely, yeah, wonderful. I mean, they have programs from elementary all the way to programs they're planning for community colleges, but through high school even. I didn't realize that there were all these competitive, I know they have
Yeah.
the robotics competitions, but I didn't realize that they
Mhm.
also had sort of an environmental competition for the county and then on to the state, for teenagers that are really interested in, trying to make a difference and coming up with projects that, they pick a particular focus on a topic, environmental
Mm.
topic each year, so it's not the same, but
Okay.
so the kids have a new challenge each time they enter it, which is rewarding. Uh,
Yeah.
Other questions? Oh, Wendy, you finally made it. Oh, my word. I want you to know the lady that suggested I get you to come, Talia, has finally made the meeting. And I but she said, oh, you've got to get Talia. And I thought, well, okay,
Aw.
reach out to Talia.
Aw.
She's finally here, so I'm glad. We do record the meeting, and if you came on, you know that this meeting will be put up on the league YouTube website eventually, and shared with our other members that aren't here. So, if anybody missed any part of it, they can catch up with it later and see it after Linda and Jen wave their magic YouTube wands over the, they edit through and make sure that some of the early things that happened are taken out. So I'd like to encourage any other questions. We have one of our newest members, Julie Martinson, is here. Jim, I know always. Kate, you've worked with Kate on some of the stories that you presented, so you know what Kate's passion is right now, trying to get those trees protected. And thank you for your work in trying to promote that as well. It's a part of the picture, and it's nice when it's happening. So, all right. We will have our regular meeting. Oh, Carol has her hand up here.
Yeah.
Just finally
Yeah,
saw.
I didn't want to overlook Lynn Lichtenberg's question in the chat.
Oh, I'm
she
sorry.
mentioned,
Yeah, thank you.
uh-huh,
We're here. Where's my chat?
her question is it terribly difficult to write as many in-depth articles as you are writing? Great coverage of so many issues.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn. I would say, you know, I think it's such a big topic and it's so important to everyone, a lot of people here. So in that sense, I would say that, you know, I had an editor once say that reporting is like receiving a fire hose of information and trying to pick out, you know, the things that you want to cover that are, you know, most crucial to cover. And I think that's really accurate. There's so many things I want to write about and so many things I want to cover. But as one person covering a big county, it is hard sometimes. But I will say my editors are so gracious in you know, giving me time and space to dive into stories that I'm really passionate about, especially the grizzly piece. I was able to kind of take, I think, like a week to really just dive into that issue and find different sources. So I really do appreciate that. When I saw Kate has a question, um, I don't know the status of that. I definitely could ask. I know Brenda Harrison, who is kind of in charge of our reporting funds, has partially retired. But I could definitely touch base with her to see how that is going.
And Wendy, do you have any questions for Talia?
No, not really. I've been reading her articles and
Oh, thank you.
contributing to the fund. So
Thank you so much.
Julie Tatone might have some idea of what the fund's looking like, as I imagine
Yeah.
she still writes periodic articles, but she charges for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
but she may have some idea on the status of that.
Yeah. And Julie and I are actually hoping to partner sometime in the near future on some coverage. So that'll be
She is
fun.
absolutely great and got great depth.
Yes, yes, she is. Yeah, she's been a great mentor.
Talia, having touch bases, New York, I mean, Wisconsin, New York, what are some of the other places you mentioned here? Washington, D.C. Do you notice any differences between what the environmental atmosphere is
Yes,
moving around the country like that?
yes, yeah, definitely. No, that's a really good question. I most definitely do. In Wisconsin, compost, we do not have curbside composting. The first time I had ever heard of that was when I moved out here. And oftentimes, we really have to separate out our recyclables. Where here, it can all be placed in one bin. So that was really fascinating to see. Yeah, I feel like, and even at the grocery store, reusable bags are more standard here, where in other places I've lived, like Washington or Wisconsin and Utah, it's not like that. I would say, in DC, I felt like people were more conscious about being sustainable than other places where I've lived. But yeah, those were definitely some of the things that I noticed be very different between like Wisconsin, for example, and here.
Do you have any ideas on how we keep spreading the word? And Carol McMahon says, I'm not sure I got that one, Carol. I'm sorry.
I just was sharing. I didn't want to
Oh,
stop the flow of the conversation, but with respect to your investigations into the wildlife corridor,
yeah.
you and others here may be interested in watching American Scar. It has various elements throughout it, but the one thing that stuck with me was the impact to the migration of animals to entire North America. So there could be some things there to help
Yeah,
think
thank
about
you.
different things about that. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Talia. It's not,
Thank you.
we have a continuation of our meeting, but I know how much you need to get out there and do things, especially if you're in Leavenworth, and
Yeah.
explore the other part of our state and some of the new different beauties. So get out there along the creek and find your way. It's a great place to be outdoors as well as in the shops, So,
Yeah,
and if you
exactly.
learn the story of Leavenworth, you'll really appreciate the power of women. Do you know that?
Okay. I don't know.
Does everybody know that story? Kate does. She's shaking her head. But go find out. If I tell you the
Yeah.
story, it'll take part of the treasure away. So while you
Okay.
find out the story of how Leavenworth came to be. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you all so much. And thank you for supporting the Herald. I really appreciate it.